Good afternoon, everyone. It's Matt from Unbearable 73 doing a little wrestling video here. I meant to do this on the weekend, but I spent more time this weekend trying to do research on with all the breaking news with the attempt on President Trump's life. So that's not what this is about. So Stepanie Vaquer. It starts how you would say liqueur, but with a W if you wanted how to pronounce it. She I will give some biological information and talk about her skill set. And of course, the interesting thing is the economic situation between the wrestling federations and the political situation between the wrestling federations. Now, I'm doing this as a live stream. Just not so much it's the easiest way to record these free form wrestling videos more so than anything else. Let me just share it out. So it's the I'm live. If the keyboard will respond, it's an annoyance. Come on. So while I'm waiting for my keyboard to actually work, the wonders of modern technology. Let's see. It's not my keyboard that's the problem. Okay, here we go, finally. It's okay, maybe the page with social media was hung up. Let's go to the Twitter. Okay. Live talking about the Stepanie Vaquer signing. For a bit. Nope, not the Daily Mail. Well, that would be the wrong thing. Where's my copy? Let's try it again. Anywho, okay, so let's start with who is Stepanie Vaquer. Well, I'll start where I first noticed Stepanie Vaquer. So I'm gonna say, I always watch. I watch wrestling videos kind of every month or so. I'll go to like, oh my god, wrestling highlights or whatever, just to check out some indie stuff because And maybe I first saw her. I want to say about in someone's wrestling highlight videos, like maybe between 7 and 10 months ago. It wasn't a whole year ago, and even though she's been wrestling for years, and I wish I had known more about her. But it was before this year, so that's 7 to 10 months, right? And I had no idea who she was. I just knew she was hot looking, and she was from the highlights. She had some amazing highlights in the ring. Okay, so and then a few months later, all sorts of rumors started to pick up about her being her wanting to move to one of the bigger federations and whatnot. So now she had been wrestling for what's called CMLL, which is a Mexican wrestling federation that's a competitor to the most well-known one, which is AAA, right? And over the course of the next month or two, then the rumors were that AEW was going after her, New Japan was going after her, but word was she wanted to sign with AEW or WWE because they were the two biggest federations in the world at this point. And I'll talk about that more later. So fast forward to the upcoming Forbidden Door PLE by AEW, and AEW New Japan have been collaborating for quite a while. CML has gotten in on that relationship as well. Occasionally TNA does. Ring of Honor is part of AEW, so for all practical purposes. And a Forbidden Door in wrestling terms is basically when multiple wrestling federations participate in one big event. And a lot of these events happen off screen, but only very few happen on screen. Now, WWE traditionally never does any of those, by the way. Okay, Triple H has opened up a bit to that. Joker voice in his video today or one of the last 2 videos talks about that a bit, which is pretty cool. Just checking stuff out. Now, going into the AEW's Forbidden Door, one of the things you should know is outside of WWE, most wrestlers sign contracts which allow them to do other work besides the federation that they're signed to. Okay. Now, some wrestlers do sign exclusives with their federations and whatnot, but most don't, just because most other federations don't pay enough to make them exclusive. Now, AEW and New Japan have big time money. Okay, they could do that, so that's why they've been as, even though they're what you would call tier 2s, right? Like if you had to talk about the wrestling federations, I was WWE at the top, right? And then right below them, I'll call them a tier 2 stuff, which is basically for the last, well, after the end of WCW and ECW, right? There was basically the tier 2s. WWE was briefly equal to a tier 1 with WWF. They compared it for a couple of years, right? ECW was the biggest tier 2, along with New Japan. And then after they died, New Japan became pretty much the big number 2 up until AEW came around. Okay, TNA has never been on the second tier rank. They had a brief chance in the early 2000s, but they were horribly mismanaged, right? And unfortunately, the Mexican Wrestling Federation, maybe it's the language barrier or whatever, I should say there was one lucha-style federation which was tier 2 for a while, which is Lucha Underground. Okay, keep that in mind. So I know. Okay, let's go with the wrestling jargon. Okay, let's go with back to what we're talking about. So along comes the Forbidden Door, and they're built. And Stepanie Vaquer at the time, she is the CML Women's Champion, one of the CML. I think there's two women's titles. One of the CML Tag Team Champions, and she is the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. Okay, and Mercedes Moné, when she came back from her injury, she's getting a big push because she's signed to a lot of money. And so the decision had been made. I'm telling you the future and the past, to give her the New Japan Strong title, as long as I think she has the TNT title right now, of the 2 non-heavyweight titles for women in AEW. It's one of the TV titles, basically. And okay, so that's where we stand on title. So a decision was made as part of cross-promoting Stepanie Vaquer and CML and New Japan to have her drop that title to Mercedes Moné at Forbidden Door. And so obviously there was leading to that. And now once I heard about that, I remembered I had a name, but didn't have an image yet. But then I started looking up like matches of her to get an idea of what her wrestling style was and all. And I was like, hey, I've seen this chick before on the highlights and all, right? So then I went and watched some of her highlight videos. So let's do a little bit of Stepanie Vaquer highlight play. This is off of her website. You'll see a little bit of how she performs in the ring. This is her content, so I'm not gonna go crazy. I'm just gonna skip around a bit so you can see a little bit of some of our stuff. I like that move. This move she does here with the drop down kick. I've never seen anyone do that before, and it's pretty cool. She's really good. She really sells like it's obviously she's not hurting the person with the boot slide in the face, but she makes it look like she's that's something, by the way, that's a lost skill in wrestling. Okay. So one of the things in wrestling is your ability to put your opponent over, right? But another is the ability to put yourself over. And part of the ability to put yourself over is to make it look like you're actually hurting the other person while actually hurting them, right? And she is really good at making the move she does look like she's got to kill someone. But obviously you don't even see, her. She's known as a safe worker, a clean worker. So bear in mind, she really can sell herself very well. And she sells other opponents. She puts others over very well as well. She has both sides of the skill set. Let's go back and let's skim through our highlights a little more. This is another cool move she does, which I'm not sure. Well, I guess lighter men could do that. The tarantula armbar, I guess we would call it, from an ECW style. There's other names for it, but there are some move sets that honestly look better when women do them because they look naturally smaller, whereas smaller male wrestlers Unless it can be a little problematic. They look too small to do some of the moves that power do. The power because it's still pretty strong. Um, you know, and she can do lucha style. She can do Japanese strong style. She can do like North American classic wrestling, as you might think, counter wrestling. She's demonstrated those skill sets in all of them. You know, she's doing a little submission wrestling here. Now she's against this is against one of her rivals. She's little counter wrestling going on here. She goes from the headlock and she's gonna she little classic counter wrestling arm breaker. You know, submission style wrestling. So she has the whole skill set. Okay, so let's not. So no, I will throw the link to that below in the what do you call it in the description, so to speak. Right. So now the next thing that I want to go over is the situation that happened in AEW before. Okay, so the word was, and when I first watched Forbidden Door, I was curious. I watched the match for Hara Mercedes Moné, or Sasha Banks, as the WWE fans may know her. And our Mercedes is really good at slow matches, methodical matches, where she gets bursts of acceleration. She is not a high speed wrestler. Okay. Now, granted, most women wrestlers outside of lucha style and some Japanese women wrestlers don't engage in continuous high speed wrestling. So I was curious of watching this match with Hara Moné. And you can go back to my comments, the post analysis on Forbidden Door, as to why Mercedes was doing what she did in that match. And I found out later Mercedes was trying to put her over, like make Stephanie look really strong in that match. Now, why is that? Two reasons. One, not Mercedes wanted to, because apparently Mercedes does have some booking and production work in her contract. So she's working to try to get the women's division stronger and so forth. So she really wanted Stepanie Vaquer in AEW. And obviously, AEW wanted Stepanie Vaquer in AEW, right? So that was the explanation for why Mercedes literally made a lot of the match a show off for Stepanie Vaquer. Okay. Which is still a really good match. I just had some questions as to the choices that Mercedes made and how she performed in the match. So there's that. Now, where does this leave us? Okay, so Stephanie, well, I'll put a link after the video is done. I'll go and edit this video in and a podcast that Thunder Rosa's podcast where she interviewed Stepanie Vaquer. It's in Spanish, but it has subtitles in English. Where if you want to know who Stepanie Vaquer is and our perspective on stuff, it will help you to watch that podcast. Okay, and it's fun. It's them at like a Mexican restaurant that Thunder Rosa goes to all the time. They eat some food. They talk about wrestling, talk about life. It's a fun sort of thing. And so now Stepanie Vaquer's background. So she's Chilean, from Chile, if you know what Chilean means. And when she was a young girl, they don't have wrestling leagues in Chile. They have it's on TV, like you can watch Lucha Libre and WWE and all that on TV, but there's no local wrestling leagues. And she decided really young she wanted to be a professional wrestler and one of the greatest female wrestlers possible, I guess you would say. So she is funny. I know, and ironically, in terms of the U.S. political situation, this is not funny, but it is retroactively like she basically illegally immigrated to Mexico in order to go to one of the toughest lucha libre wrestling schools, or wrestling schools in general. Now, I don't remember the name of it, but I've heard that the wrestling school she went to was comparable in terms of toughening wrestlers up to how Stu Hart's, the Hart Dungeon used to be back in Canada, right? So she spent a couple of years working her legal status out as she developed as a wrestler. Eventually got that all straightened out so she could she's fully legal in Mexico. And then she spent the next bunch of years becoming a dominant female performer in Mexican wrestling. And she's been with CMML, which is, like I said, a competitor to AAA for a while. So, but she tried out for WWE a few years ago and didn't make the cut, so to speak. Now that was back in the Vince days when probably I'm gonna hazard a bet that he still had to sign off on anything, even for NXT. And to be honest, I'm glad she didn't go back then, okay? Because Vince wasted so much money lost so much money, wasted so much time with his horrible wrestling decisions from basically 2004 forward for the most part. Even though he did a bunch of good stuff, he did far more bad stuff in that time period than he did good. Anyway, so now here's one of the things about the Stepanie Vaquer has wanted to be one of the top, if not the top, female wrestlers in the world, and she, in her heart, probably knew WWE was a place for that, right? But here's the reason why I think her going to WWE is a good in a way, right? Tony Khan has the money to compete with WWE, and he does. He pays his talent as good or better as WWE does most of their talents when they sign, right? And he still lets them have open contracts where they can work in other divisions. Tony Khan seems to go with the idea of much more flexible scheduling and maintains a larger talent group so he can give people months off to recover from injury without risking, that's his philosophy. There are problems in AEW that are beyond the scope of this video, right? But here's the interesting thing. So Stepanie Vaquer, all the signs were she was going to sign with AEW, and out of the blue, she signed with WWE. Okay, I mean Triple H probably gave her a good offer. I don't think it was the money. Because I have a feeling if she went to the AEW and said Triple H offered me $3 million a year, what can you do? He kind of could throw money at her, no problem. I think the reason she chose WWE is because she knows right now, probably for the next 5 years, if she wants to be the top women's wrestler in the world, which she is skill-wise, make no doubts about this. The moment she put her name on that contract, the moment she did, she is the best female wrestler WWE has. Okay, there's there are some who could go with her. Becky could go with her, Charlotte, Io Sky, but total package in terms of obviously you have to have physical appeal, a look and all that. Her ability in the ring, her gimmick of I call La Diabla, the female devil who's coming for you. She's already wrestled in a WWE match that WWE is promoting. I'll link to that below. And it looks like they're letting her use our standard sort of look for that. They're not going to make her change her, which Vince would. Vince would do something horrible. He'd have her change her whole gimmick or whatever. And she's. We still have to. They probably still have to work on finalizing her WWE music because, Anyway, so she signed with WWE, and I don't think it was the money per se. Because AEW can compete with WWE money. I don't. Tony Khan is rich beyond the dreams of avarice, right? I think because she knows to get a career to be the number one women wrestler in the world, she has to go to WWE. But here's the thing: finally, we have a competitor at the economic level for WWE, which is AEW, for the past 5 years. Remember, there was a whole time period from when WCW collapsed to, which was like basically 2000-ish, right, to the rise of AEW when Vince had no economic competition, so he could pay people what he wanted, he could do whatever he wanted, and what are they going to do? And what happened is fans checked out because they got tired of the product, and they'd come back in periodically, but he wasted talent. He, for example, I've known certain times in 2015-ish, I think AJ Styles premiered in 2016. So when AJ Styles premiered, he had AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Samoa Joe, right? Samoa Joe was working with NXT. Were arguably 3 of the top 5 wrestlers in the world, right? Then he had in the next group, he had Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, plus he still had Randy Orton. He still had some John Cena, guys who were arguably, I'm not big on Randy Orton. He had CM Punk during that time period. He had such a level of talent, but the big 3 I mentioned all the time: Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Shinsuke Nakamura, right? if you haven't seen Wrestle Kingdom 10 with Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ, in terms of storylines aside, in terms of pure wrestling, that's arguably the greatest match that's ever happened, right? And he did nothing with them for five. He ruined their pushes. Everything he did with Roman Reigns, that they did with Roman Reigns when they finally got him to be the Bloodline storyline, they could have done with Samoa. Basically, they took Samoa Joe's gimmick and gave it to Roman Reigns for the Bloodline storyline. Okay, and so the point is Vince is gone. So I'm glad Stepanie Vaquer is. I mean, otherwise she would have been Asuka 2.0, where she comes in. She's a legendary female wrestler. Matter of fact, Asuka's still there. Asuka is probably the best female wrestler when she comes back from injury, if she comes back well, other than Stepanie Vaquer. Okay, so those are your two best women's wrestlers, are Asuka and Stepanie Vaquer in WWE, and two of the top 5 or 10 on the planet, right? And it just boggles the mind. I know it's getting ranty, but if Vince was still, he'd basically ruin Stepanie Vaquer's push that Triple H is going to design the same way he ruined Asuka's. Okay, but now with Triple H, he knows how to put this talent over, right? I still think he needs to. I mean, the Judgment Day is a bomb. They're a joke federation. Finn Balor is a joke. Damian Priest is a joke. Rhea Ripley, Dom Mysterio, who's literally one of the top 2 or 3 in the company 7 months ago or so. He had the biggest heel heat other than Roman Reigns, arguably, and now he's a joke. He's a comedy villain, right? So Triple H got to disassemble that. He got to work it out for him. But I have a feeling that even though the long-term storylines he's fixing might need time to work out, bring new people in like Stepanie Vaquer, he's gonna have no problem putting her over strong. And now obviously she has a language difficulty. She has not demonstrated great fluency in English. I have heard her speak like English, and it's not great. So she's not going to be doing English language promos. I almost think the best approach to this would be to give her a manager who could grade on promos. I almost want to say Paul Heyman. This to me is what I would do. I know Paul Heyman is going to tie to the Bloodline storyline. I would just not do that. I would disassociate him from that, and let him promo you need, let him put a dangerous alliance together with a bunch of dangerous, powerful wrestlers. And, I don't know. But the point is, she needs a manager who can do the speaking parts for her. And the best guy, obviously, is Paul Heyman, right? Now, who else? I don't know who else they could put with her, but we'll see. Okay, so that's the sort of and just to return once more to, I think I'm almost done with this video. One more time to the economic situation. Oh yeah, the last thing is she did not leave under good terms from CML. Okay, she did drop the New Japan title, AEW, and she was supposed to do a show. She was supposed to drop, I believe, the CML title possibly to Willow from AEW at a wrestling event that happened this past week, and she didn't go to the shows. Now, traditionally, WWE, at least when Triple H does signings to NXT, has let wrestlers finish out their old work and old shows, has let them do the deed. So presumably it was up to Stepanie Vaquer whether she was gonna do the business the right way with CML, and she didn't. So does that mean she had bad blood with them and was angry? I don't know. Or does that mean she's more of a CM Punk type personality behind the scenes? I don't get that impression just by what other people talk about her. Thunder Rosa has given a great positive impression of her with the podcast. Mercedes Monet has said she's a great person. So those are two of the most prominent names. So like I said, I have a feeling she didn't do it more because of bad blood between her and CML rather than her personality. So there's that. Now, that's the last thing to say, aside from reiterating you should watch the Thunder Rosa podcast with Stepanie Vaquer, which I will edit into the description of this video shortly after I'm done, is when will she make her big time WWE debut? Will it be NXT? That's rumored it's NXT. She's going to be an NXT performer. That could be good because what's her name? Sophie Perez. No, the current champion of NXT, female champion, probably prior to with Asuka out and before Stepanie Vaquer came in, was probably the best female wrestler in WWE. Okay, and Roxy Perez. And so now there could be good competition down there, and then Roxy eventually drops the title to her, and Roxy comes up to the main line. WWE does have a bit of a talent glut situation going on, but we'll see. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you have any questions, I'll be on tonight. I'll be on the Wednesday night is overbooked at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll start early, and we'll be talking more about Stepanie Vaquer there. Joker Boys had a video. We talked about her maybe 2 days ago, 4 days ago. We dropped it. I think it was Friday or Saturday. So you check that out. I'll link to it down below. Okay, and that's pretty much it. W has a great talent, and there's someone who can go far. As they just got to get the right manager for her to do the promos for her, and that's that. So, if you have any questions, you can put them in the description. I'll answer them down below, and I'll follow up with them. Thank you for listening. This has been a wrestling update from Matt Unbearable 73. Stay safe out there. Have a great day.